Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. It started at her sister's house, during what was supposed to be a warm Thanksgiving dinner. You know the type. Everyone brings a dish, smiles too hard, and pretends the family hasn't been silently falling apart for years. I'd spent the day helping her chop vegetables, load the car, keep the pies warm, just trying to be useful. She barely looked up from her phone the whole ride over. Dinner was fine, uneventful. Her sister Danielle told the same boring story about her kid's piano recital. Her dad tried to get political and got swiftly shut down. I laughed in all the right places, poured wine for her mom, helped clear plates. I knew my role. I'd played it for years. Then came the after-dinner drinks. That's when it happened. Someone, probably her cousin Mallory, the one who always overshares about her new boyfriend, cracked a joke about how everyone's thankful for something, even if it's just bedroom skills. It was a throwaway comment. Harmless. But my wife, Sarah, perked up like someone had just lobbed her a golden setup. She raised her glass, leaned back in her chair, and with this smug, lazy grin, said loud enough for the whole table to hear. Not everyone. I have nothing to be thankful for in that department. Believe me. She laughed. Not a shy giggle. A full laugh. Her sister laughed too. Then Mallory. Even her mom did that thing where she covers her mouth and tries to look shocked but doesn't really stop herself. I sat there, wine glass in hand, smile frozen halfway. I wasn't embarrassed. I was, still. It wasn't the words that hit me. It was the delivery. Sharp. Deliberate. There was no nervous energy behind it, no hint of oops, did I go too far? It was practiced. Like she'd said it before, maybe not in those exact words, but close enough. Someone across the table cleared their throat. I don't know who. I didn't look away from her. She met my eyes once. Briefly. Smirking. As if to say, what are you going to do? Cry. Instead, I gave her a small, tight smile. Nothing exaggerated. Just enough to make her uncomfortable. And I held it there. Just like I held her gaze. She looked away first. That's when I knew something important had changed. I finished my drink slowly, nodding along as the conversation picked up again like nothing had happened. They talked about online shopping, winter coats, who was hosting Christmas. No one brought up what she said again, but I could feel the shift in the air. Danielle didn't look at me the same. Neither did her husband, Jason. Even Mallory, who had laughed the loudest, glanced my way with something like guilt in her eyes when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Sarah didn't notice. She was too busy bragging about her wine knowledge and how she doesn't do boxed anymore. I stayed quiet. Smiling. I learned long ago that silence is never neutral. Not when it follows humiliation. It becomes a loaded thing. And in that moment, mine was thunderous. What she didn't realize was that I'd already been watching. Her joke only confirmed what I'd started to suspect months ago. The way she flinched when I touched her. How often she stayed late at work without texting. The new lingerie she bought that I never saw her wear. The sudden need for privacy, passwords changed, phone tilted away when I walked in the room. I didn't need to check her phone that night. I already had a plan, and the wheels had just started turning. After Thanksgiving, things settled into their usual, quiet dysfunction. She didn't mention what she'd said at dinner. Neither did I. But that silence wasn't forgiveness. It was calculation. I watched her more carefully. Not obsessively, just enough to notice the patterns that had always been there but I'd chosen to ignore. She spent more time in the bathroom before leaving for work. Always checking her hair in the mirror, applying lipstick like she was headed to a photo shoot instead of her office cubicle. That same navy blue dress reappeared every Tuesday. The one with the high slit. I used to love that dress. Now I started to hate it. Tuesday. That became my focus. I remembered she used to work from home on Tuesdays. Now suddenly, those were her in-office days. Always with a different excuse, conference call, budget meeting, leadership training. Every week, like clockwork, she'd leave before me, come back after me, and act like nothing had changed. I started asking questions. Casual ones. How was the meeting? What did you have for lunch? Just to see if her answers held up. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they didn't. But what struck me most wasn't the lies, it was how comfortable she was telling them. I didn't confront her. I just started digging. Nothing aggressive. Nothing illegal. Just inquisitive. I remembered her laptop password from a few months back. She never changed it. One evening while she was in the shower, I flipped it open. Most of her activity was boring Pinterest boards about tile backsplashes, email newsletters she never opened, online shopping carts she abandoned. But there was one folder buried deep in her desktop named Consulting Hours. It wasn't work stuff. It was messages, screenshots of texts, WhatsApp conversations, photos, and none of them were with clients. There was one name that kept coming up. Adam. No last name. Just Adam. A few saved voice notes. Some flirty banter. Memes. A picture of her holding a coffee cup at her office window, but the angle was wrong. Like she hadn't taken it herself. Like he had. I closed the laptop. Didn't copy anything. Didn't forward a thing. I didn't need to. What I needed was time. Over the next week, I turned into a ghost in our marriage. Present, but silent. Helpful, but disengaged. I made her tea when she had a headache. Paid the electricity bill. Rubbed her shoulder absently as she scrolled through Instagram. And all the while, I watched. I started asking about Adam. "Oh, he's just on the marketing team," she said once. Another time, "We don't really talk much." Then, "He's leaving the company soon anyway." But she never said it the same way twice. One night, around 2 a.m., I got out of bed quietly and stepped into the hallway. I'd left my phone charging out there, and as I passed the living room, I noticed hers still lit up on the coffee table. A notification preview glowed. "Adam, can't stop thinking about how you look today." I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to. Instead, I went back to bed and stared at the ceiling, just like I had so many nights before. But something was different now. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the guy quietly absorbing the insult while his wife mocked his manhood in front of her family. No. Now, I was the man in control. I hadn't touched her in weeks, and she didn't seem to mind. That was the first real confirmation. When a marriage goes cold and one of you doesn't even notice, that's not disconnection, it's abandonment in slow motion. She still made small talk. Still laughed at stupid memes and showed me her Pinterest ideas for a kitchen remodel we both knew we'd never start. It was all performance. But now I was watching the performance with new eyes. And then, it happened. I got a text from her sister, Danielle. We hadn't spoken one-on-one since Thanksgiving. I figured she pitted me after what Sarah said, maybe even agreed with her, the way she laughed along. But this text was different. "You free for a quick coffee?" "Just you. Don't tell Sarah." I stared at it for a minute. Debated. Then typed a simple response. "Sure." We met at a small place near her office. I got there early. Danielle showed up 10 minutes late, looking nervous in a way I hadn't seen before. She didn't even order a drink. She sat down and said, "I shouldn't be doing this." I stayed quiet. Let the silence work for me like it had that night at the dinner table. "I didn't mean to laugh," she said. "At Thanksgiving. I mean, I did, but only because I didn't know what else to do." Still, I said nothing. "She's not who you think she is." That caught my attention. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the woman who mocked me in front of her entire family? Or the one sleeping with Adam from marketing?" Danielle blinked. Didn't even try to deny it. Her lips parted, then closed again. Like she wasn't sure if she was more shocked that I knew or that I said it out loud. "She's been lying to you for a long time," she said finally. "Longer than you know." I leaned in just slightly. "How long?" Danielle looked around, then pulled her phone from her coat pocket and slid it across the table. Screenshots. Dates going back over a year. Text between Sarah and her. Snapshots of flirtatious messages, stories about hotel rooms and weekend retreats that were anything but work-related. At first, Danielle had helped her cover up the early lies. The white ones. But as things escalated, she started distancing herself. Sarah didn't like that. She threatened to cut me off, she said. Said I was being judgmental. But it wasn't just Adam. I blinked. What? Danielle swallowed hard. There was another guy before him. Briefly. His name was Daniel, my ex. That hit harder than I expected. Your ex? She nodded. We were already on the rocks, but Sarah didn't help. The betrayal twisted deeper. Sarah hadn't just disrespected me, she'd crossed into full destruction mode, even willing to wreck her own sister's life for a fling. Danielle leaned forward, voice low. I'm telling you this because I can't keep pretending she's blameless. I know how she talks about you behind your back. I used to believe her, used to think maybe you were the problem. Too quiet, too passive. But then I saw what she was really like when no one was watching. I sat back in my chair, exhaling slowly. So it wasn't just me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't weak. I was a man being dragged through the emotional gutter by someone who had already made me the villain in her own story and invited others to applaud her for it. Danielle gave me the messages. All of them. I didn't ask her to. You'll know what to do with them, she said. And I did. That night, I sat at my computer, opened the folder she had airdropped to my phone, and read every message, every photo, every smug little emoji my wife had sent behind my back. The next morning, I made 2 appointments, one with a lawyer, and the other with her boss. She didn't notice anything had changed. That was the most insulting part. I'd moved beyond subtle, past the quiet disengagement and into full strategic detachment, and she still didn't see it. Or maybe she did, and thought I'd just resigned myself to my place. A man who absorbed, endured, and stayed. She had no idea what was coming. I waited exactly 3 weeks, just long enough for her to believe things had returned to normal. I even started being affectionate again. Little things. A kiss on the cheek. A glass of wine waiting for her after work. A soft compliment about the way she styled her hair. It was all part of the setup. The opportunity finally came when her company hosted a winter mixer, a networking event for staff and clients. Her idea of networking was to get tipsy, parade around in something backless, and pretend she was still in her 20s. Naturally, she begged me to come, wanted me on her arm. Show off the husband who never said no, never got angry, never fought back. I agreed, smiled, even ironed my shirt. When we got there, she moved through the room like she owned it, greeting clients with 2 tight hugs, laughing just a little too hard at weak jokes. I followed silently, introducing myself when appropriate, holding her coat, refilling her glass. It was familiar, comfortable. I knew my role, until I changed it. An hour in, I noticed Adam. She hadn't told me he'd be there, claimed he'd taken a job in another city. But there he was, standing near the catering table, trying not to make eye contact with me. He looked like a man who had secrets and suddenly realized someone else held them. I gave him a nod. He looked away. Sarah didn't notice. She was too busy telling one of her clients some story about how marriage teaches you patience. Patience. I nearly laughed. When the DJ started playing mid-tempo classics, couples filtered toward the open space near the fireplace. The lights dimmed. Someone called out for people to dance. Sarah turned to me with that overconfident smirk of hers and said, "You're not going to make me dance alone, are you?" I shrugged. "One dance. Then I've got a surprise." She perked up. "A surprise? What kind?" I leaned in and said gently, "The kind that gets everyone's attention." I let her chew on that for a few seconds before taking her hand and leading her to the dance floor. We swayed awkwardly, me stiff, her loose and bubbly, tipsy off too many cocktails and the sound of her own voice. She whispered something about staying at the hotel afterward. I said, "We'll see." The song ended. I kissed her forehead, then stepped away, walked over to the MC's booth and handed him a USB drive. "Play that file," I said, "when I give you the nod." I turned back to the crowd. Found Sarah near the bar now, laughing with a circle of coworkers. Adam was 2 feet behind her, nursing a drink like it might protect him. I walked calmly to the center of the room and clinked my glass 3 times. The room quieted. "I just want to say thank you," I said, "for being such warm hosts tonight. And I'd especially like to thank my wife, Sarah." Everyone turned toward her. She smiled, modestly at first, then brighter as the applause started. "She's been a star," I continued. "Truly. Especially this past year. So much growth. So many new connections." Sarah tilted her head, confused. But she didn't speak. I glanced toward the MC. Nodded. The speakers crackled. Then the first message played. Her voice. Laughing. Breathless. I swear, he has no idea. I could literally be screwing Adam during his lunch break, and he'd still be at home folding my laundry like a little lapdog. Silence. Someone choked on their drink. Then the second clip. He keeps asking if I'm tired. It's adorable. I just tell him I'm stressed. Works every time. I didn't look at Sarah. I watched the crowd. One woman covered her mouth. A man whispered something to his wife. Adam bolted toward the exit like someone had lit his suit on fire. Then finally, I turned back to Sarah. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her eyes were wide, mouth slightly open. Her hand clutched her clutch like it was a life preserver. "Thank you," I said softly, "for making this so easy." Then I walked out. No yelling. No drama. Just the cold precision of truth broadcasted. She followed me outside 5 minutes later, her heels clacking against the sidewalk like the tempo of panic. Called my name. I didn't stop walking. She didn't go home that night. I knew because I was there. I watched the door from the guest room as I packed the last of my things. Not frantically, methodically. T-shirts folded. Dress shoes wrapped in bags. Important papers stacked in a labeled binder. Everything else, I left. She could have the couch, the dishes, the comforter with the wine stain she'd always blamed me for. By the time the sun came up, I was gone. I didn't block her number. I didn't make a dramatic exit post online. I didn't call her mother or leave a trail of breadcrumbs behind. I just left her to sit in the mess she'd made, with the voice of her own betrayal echoing in her head louder than anything I could have said. The fallout came quickly. Danielle told me later that Sarah tried to spin the whole thing, claimed I was emotionally manipulative, that I'd violated her privacy, that the recordings were taken out of context. But the thing about shame is that once it's public, no one buys the spin. Especially not when you laughed about cheating in front of your husband's face and half your coworkers heard you do it. HR launched an investigation into Adam. He resigned before it concluded. I doubt he landed anywhere reputable after that. As for Sarah, well, the company offered her early transition assistance. She told people she took a break to focus on herself. She sent me messages. A lot of them. Apologies. Explanations. Voice notes late at night saying she didn't mean it, that it was just a joke, that she was drunk, stressed, misled, misunderstood. But not once did she say she was sorry for doing it. Only sorry for being caught. So I never replied. And eventually, she stopped trying. I moved into a one-bedroom on the other side of the city. Small. Quiet. The kind of place where the silence is clean, not heavy. I got back into photography. Started running again. It was strange at first, having no one to explain myself to. But in time, I realized how much of me had been twisted into someone else's narrative. The man I had become to survive her ridicule wasn't who I actually was. Now I am. But there was another path I could have taken. If I'd stayed silent, if I'd swallowed her Thanksgiving insult the way I swallowed the others before it, gritted my teeth, nodded through the dinner, let it rot inside me like so many unspoken humiliations, I probably would have lasted another year. Maybe two. I'd have watched her leave every Tuesday dressed like a woman in love with someone else and pretended I didn't know. I would have kept folding her laundry while she laughed about me in other people's inboxes. I'd have been the silent ghost in a marriage held together by convenience and appearances. Eventually, she would have left, but not before bleeding the last bit of my self-respect dry. And sometimes I imagine a third ending, one where I confronted her privately. No recordings. No public moment. Just me, her, and the evidence. I picture her crying, collapsing into apologies, swearing it didn't mean anything, promising to change. And maybe I would have believed her. Maybe we would have tried therapy. Maybe I would have given her another chance. And in that version, I still lose. Because you can't unsee disrespect. You can't unknow betrayal. And no amount of working on it rewrites the fact that she enjoyed humiliating me. That she looked at the man who bent over backwards for her and laughed. So no, this is the ending I chose. Not the loudest, but the clearest. She thought she could shame me publicly and walk away unscathed. Instead, I let her drown in her own echo. And when she finally reached for me, when she realized the spotlight had turned, when she remembered that intimacy is more than physical and trust is more than a word, I was already gone, and I took my silence with me.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.